Before we begin this journey, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Now, let's dive into a story about a mother's love, a child's suffering, and a truth that no one saw coming. It was a quiet Tuesday evening in September when Claire Hartwell's world shattered for the second time in a year. The first time was the divorce. The second time was when she opened her front door. Claire had been sitting on her worn couch in her modest suburban home, surrounded by silence that had become her only companion. The house felt too big, too empty since her 5-year-old daughter Lily had gone to live with her father a year ago. The judge's words still echoed in her mind. Given Mrs. Hartwell's recent mental health struggles, we find it in the child's best interest. She'd been looking at old photographs when the desperate pounding started. Bang, bang, bang. Claire rushed to the door, her heart racing. When she opened it, her breath caught in her throat. There stood Lily, alone, barefoot, her flower-patterned dress dirty and torn at the hem. But it wasn't the dress that made Claire freeze. It was her daughter's face. Tears streamed down Lily's cheeks as she frantically scratched at her arms, her neck, leaving red marks with each desperate movement. "Mommy," Lily sobbed, her small voice breaking. "Mommy, I'm disappearing. My body is breaking apart from the inside and Daddy said nobody can see." Claire dropped to her knees, pulling her daughter close. "Baby, what are you talking about? How did you get here?" "I walked, Mommy. I had to. Look." Lily lifted her dress with trembling hands. What Claire saw made her blood run cold. Her daughter's legs were covered in angry red patches, some areas where the skin appeared to be peeling away in sheets. It looked nothing like a simple rash or scrape. It was something else entirely, something that sent every maternal instinct screaming alarm. "Oh my God, Lily. How long has this been happening?" "A long time, Mommy," Lily whimpered, scratching at her arms again until they bled. "It hurts like fire. Daddy puts cream on it and makes me wear long clothes, but it's getting worse. He says it's ugly and nobody should know." Claire's hands shook as she grabbed her phone and dialed 911. "My daughter needs an ambulance. She's 5 years old and something is very wrong with her skin. Please hurry." As they waited, Claire held Lily tight, trying to soothe her. "It's going to be okay, sweetheart. Mommy's here now. We're going to make this better." But inside, Claire's mind was racing. Lily lived with her father, Ethan. They had split custody after the divorce, but Ethan had won primary custody when Claire had fallen into a deep depression. How could this have happened without her knowing? How long had Lily been suffering? The ambulance arrived within minutes, red and blue lights painting the quiet suburban street. 2 paramedics rushed to the door with their equipment. The older one, a man named Jake with kind eyes, knelt beside Lily. "Hi there, sweetheart. Can I take a look?" Lily nodded and Claire helped her stand. Jake examined the affected areas carefully, his expression growing more concerned with each passing second. He exchanged a look with his partner, Maria, who was taking notes. "Ma'am," Jake said quietly to Claire, "how long has your daughter had these symptoms?" I don't know. She lives with her father. I had no idea this was happening." Maria leaned closer to Jake and whispered, but Claire could still hear, "This isn't ordinary contact dermatitis. Look at the pattern, the severity. This could be autoimmune. How long do you think she's been like this?" "Months, maybe," Jake replied, his voice tight. "This level of progression doesn't happen overnight." Claire felt her legs weaken. "What are you saying? What's wrong with her?" Jake stood up, his expression serious but compassionate. "We need to get her to the hospital right away. This needs to be examined by specialists. Mrs. Hartwell. Claire Hartwell. Mrs. Hartwell. When was your daughter's last doctor's appointment?" Claire opened her mouth to answer but realized with horror that she didn't know. The custody arrangement meant Ethan handled all medical decisions. She looked at Lily, who was clinging to her leg. "Lily, honey, when did Daddy last take you to see Dr. Strauss?" Lily's bottom lip trembled. "I don't remember, Mommy. A long, long time ago. Before my birthday. Daddy says doctors make things worse. He says they took Grandma away and he won't let them take me." The paramedics exchanged another loaded glance. Maria spoke gently. "Sweetheart, we're going to help you feel better, okay? We're going to take you and Mommy to the hospital now. As they loaded Lily into the ambulance, Claire's phone buzzed. It was a number she knew too well, her ex-husband, Ethan. She declined the call. Whatever he had to say could wait. Right now, her daughter needed her. In the ambulance, Maria started an IV while Jake monitored Lily's vital signs. Claire held her daughter's small hand, watching the child she'd barely seen in months drift in and out of restless sleep, still scratching unconsciously at her skin, even in her exhaustion. "Mrs. Hartwell," Maria said softly, "I need to ask, does anyone in your family have a history of autoimmune conditions? Psoriasis, lupus, anything like that?" Claire shook her head, then paused. "Wait, Ethan's mother. She died when he was young. I remember him saying it was some kind of skin condition, but he never wanted to talk about it." Maria made a note, her expression grave. As the ambulance pulled into the hospital emergency bay, Claire looked down at her daughter's peaceful but pain-marked face and made a silent vow. Whatever it took, however hard she had to fight, she would find out what was happening to Lily, and she would make sure her baby got the help she desperately needed. But what Claire didn't know yet was that the truth waiting for her was far more complicated than she could imagine, and time was already running out. The emergency room at Riverside General Hospital was buzzing with quiet efficiency when Claire and Lily arrived. Nurses moved swiftly, doctors consulted in hushed tones, and the sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air. Claire hadn't let go of Lily's hand since they left the ambulance. Her daughter looked so small on the hospital bed, her tiny body overwhelmed by the white sheets and medical equipment beginning to surround her. A woman in a white coat entered the room with purpose. She had warm brown eyes and graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. "Mrs. Hartwell, I'm Dr. Helen Strauss. I was Lily's pediatrician before." She paused delicately, before the custody arrangement changed. "Dr. Strauss, thank God," Claire breathed with relief. "Something is very wrong. Look at her skin." Dr. Strauss approached Lily with gentle professionalism. "Hello, Lily, do you remember me?" Lily nodded weakly. "You gave me stickers." "That's right, sweetheart. Can I examine you?" "I promise to be gentle." With Lily's permission, Dr. Strauss carefully examined the affected areas. Her expression shifted from concern to alarm as she documented the extent of the condition. The red patches, the scaling, the irritation. It covered nearly 40% of the child's small body. "Mrs. Hartwell," Dr. Strauss said carefully, pulling up her tablet, "I'm going to access Lily's medical records. When was her last appointment?" "I don't know. Ethan handles all of that now." Dr. Strauss typed quickly, her frown deepening with each passing second. "According to our system, Lily hasn't been seen by any healthcare provider in 9 months. No checkups, no sick visits, nothing." Claire felt the room spin. "That can't be right. That's not possible." "I'm afraid it is, and Mrs. Hartwell, this condition didn't develop overnight. This has been progressing for months without proper medical attention." Before Claire could respond, raised voices erupted in the hallway. The door burst open, and Ethan Hartwell stormed in, his face flushed with anger but his clothes perfectly pressed, his demeanor controlled. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Ethan demanded, his eyes locked on Claire. "You can't just take my daughter without telling me." "Your daughter showed up at my door in pain, Ethan. Look at her." "Daddy!" Lily reached for him, and Ethan's expression softened immediately as he moved to her bedside. "I'm here, Princess. Daddy's here." He turned to Dr. Strauss, his voice now measured and calm. "Doctor, I appreciate your concern, but this is simply a case of common eczema. I've been treating it at home with natural remedies. My ex-wife tends to be dramatic." Dr. Strauss stood her ground. "Mr. Hartwell, I've been a pediatrician for 23 years. This is not eczema. Your daughter is exhibiting symptoms consistent with a serious dermatological condition, possibly autoimmune in nature. She needs immediate testing, blood work, a biopsy, specialist consultation." Ethan's jaw tightened. "No, absolutely not. I won't have my daughter poked and prodded unnecessarily. I have primary custody, which means I make the medical decisions." "Mr. Hartwell, your daughter is in pain." which is why I treat it at home, away from hospitals and their excessive interventions. Ethan's voice remained eerily calm, but there was steel beneath it. My mother spent years in hospitals. The treatments they gave her, they made everything worse. I won't let that happen to Lily. A woman in a professional Navy suit appeared in the doorway. Excuse me, I'm Gretchen Vale, Social Services. We received a call about this situation. Everyone began talking at once until Ms. Vale held up her hand. Let me be clear about the legal reality here. Mr. Hartwell, you do have primary custody. However, Dr. Strauss, you can request a court order for medical evaluation if you believe the child is in danger. Dr. Strauss looked at Lily, then at Claire's desperate face. I'll be filing that petition first thing tomorrow morning. Then we'll deal with it tomorrow, Ethan said, already gathering Lily's things. Come on, princess. Let's go home. No, Mommy. Lily reached for Claire, tears streaming down her face. Claire's heart shattered, but Ms. Vale stepped between them. Mrs. Hartwell, I understand this is difficult, but right now the law is clear. As Ethan carried Lily toward the door, the little girl looked back at her mother, her eyes pleading. Mommy, it hurts. I know, baby. I know. Mommy's going to fix this, I promise. The door closed, and Claire collapsed into a chair, her entire body shaking. Doctor. Strauss sat beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Claire, she said quietly, pulling out a business card and writing on the back. Listen to me very carefully. Based on what I've seen tonight, if this condition goes untreated much longer, Lily could face permanent complications, scarring, infections, immune system issues. You have maybe 30 days before we cross into critical territory. Claire looked up, tears blurring her vision. 30 days. Find a way to get her back here, Claire. Document everything. Fight for your daughter. Dr. Strauss pressed the card into Claire's hand. The clock is ticking. As Claire sat alone in the empty hospital room, she looked at the clock on the wall. 11:47 p.m. Day 1 of 30 had just begun, and she had no idea how she was going to save her daughter from a man who couldn't see he was the one hurting her most. Claire didn't sleep that night. As sunrise painted her living room window orange, she sat surrounded by printed articles about skin conditions, her laptop open, her phone filled with photos she'd managed to take of Lily at the hospital. A knock at the door made her jump. It was her neighbor, Nora Finch, a retired nurse in her 70s with silver hair and sharp, kind eyes. I saw the ambulance last night, Nora said, carrying a thermos of coffee, and I saw you come home alone. What happened, dear? Claire broke down, the words pouring out. Nora listened, then asked to see the photos. She put on her reading glasses and studied each image carefully, her expression growing more serious. Claire, I worked in pediatric care for 30 years. This doesn't look like simple eczema. The pattern, the severity, this could be juvenile psoriasis or another autoimmune condition. Untreated for months? Nora shook her head gravely. That child is suffering unnecessarily. What do I do, Nora? Ethan has legal custody. The system moves so slowly. Then you need evidence that can't be ignored. Document everything. Find out what's really happening in that house. That afternoon, Claire made a decision that terrified her. She drove to Ethan's neighborhood, 3 miles across town where the houses were newer, the lawns more manicured. She parked down the street and waited until she saw his car leave. He was going to work, like always. Predictable Ethan, who valued routine above all else. Her heart hammering, Claire approached the house. She couldn't go inside, that would be illegal. But the trash bins were on the curb for pickup, technically public property once they reached the street. She felt like a criminal as she quickly sorted through the contents, her hands shaking. Then she found them. 5 empty prescription cream bottles, all different brands. Hydrocortisone, betamethasone, triamcinolone. Each one a stronger steroid than the last. None of them prescribed by a doctor based on the generic labels. He'd been buying them over the counter, trying different treatments randomly. But what made Claire's blood run cold was what she found next. A small bottle of heavy-duty foundation makeup meant for covering birthmarks and scars. Children's formula. He'd been covering Lily's condition with makeup. At the very bottom of the bin, wrapped in newspaper, was a photograph. Claire's hands trembled as she unfolded it. The image showed a woman in her 50s sitting in a chair, her exposed arms covered in lesions that looked disturbingly similar to Lily's. The woman's eyes held deep sadness. Claire turned the photo over. Written in faded ink, Margaret Hartwell, 1985. Ethan's mother. Claire's phone buzzed. A text from Nora. "Did you find anything?" Claire quickly photographed everything and hurried back to her car. Once safely home, she opened her laptop and began searching. Margaret Hartwell obituary 1987. The results loaded, and Claire's breath caught. Margaret Ann Hartwell, age 52, passed away peacefully on November 3, 1987, after a long battle with complications from autoimmune dermatological conditions. She is survived by her husband, Robert, and son, Ethan, age 8. In lieu of flowers, donations may be made to the Autoimmune Disease Research Foundation. 8 years old. Ethan had been only 8 when he watched his mother die from a skin condition. "Oh, God," Claire whispered. "He's not just being difficult. He's terrified." Nora, who had come over, read over Claire's shoulder. "He's reliving his trauma through Lily. That poor man is so scared of losing his daughter the way he lost his mother that he can't see he's making it worse." Claire looked at the clock. Day 2 was ending. 28 days left. She picked up her phone and called the number doctor Strauss had given her, a family attorney named Iris Callahan who specialized in custody cases. "Ms. Callahan, my name is Claire Hartwell, and I need help saving my daughter, but I think I also need to help save her father from himself." As she explained everything she'd discovered, Claire realized the truth was far more complicated than she'd imagined. This wasn't a simple case of right versus wrong. This was about fear, trauma, and love that had become so twisted it was causing the very harm it meant to prevent. And the clock was still ticking. Iris Callahan's office was small but efficient, filled with case files and family photographs. The attorney, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and graying hair, listened intently as Claire spread out the evidence on her desk, the photos, the empty cream bottles, Margaret's obituary. "This is good," Iris said, studying the materials. "This shows a pattern of untreated medical neglect rooted in psychological trauma. I can get us a preliminary hearing in 3 days. But Claire, I need you to understand, the court moves carefully in custody cases. We need more than this." "What else do I need?" "Witnesses. Documentation of Lily's current condition. Proof that this is ongoing and worsening." Iris leaned forward. "Does Lily go to school?" "Meadowbrook Elementary. But Ethan controls everything." "I'm not even on the pickup list anymore." "Then we start there. Talk to her teachers, the school nurse, see what they've observed." That afternoon, Claire drove to Meadowbrook Elementary just as dismissal began. Her hands gripped the steering wheel as she watched the doors, searching for one small face in the crowd of children. Then she saw her. Lily emerged slowly, wearing a long-sleeved turtleneck despite the warm September weather. While other children ran and played, Lily walked carefully, as if movement itself caused discomfort. She was scratching her arms through the fabric. Claire's heart broke. She approached carefully, not wanting to cause a scene. "Lily? Sweetie?" Lily's head snapped up. For a moment, joy flooded her face, then fear. She looked around nervously before running to Claire and throwing her arms around her mother's waist. "Mommy," she whispered urgently, her voice muffled against Claire's shirt. "Mommy, it's worse. I bleed when I sleep now. The sheets have spots and Daddy gets so sad when he sees them." Claire knelt down, holding her daughter at arm's length to look at her. Even with the turtleneck pulled high, she could see angry red patches creeping up Lily's neck, areas where the skin looked inflamed and irritated. "Does it hurt, baby?" "All the time. Like fire ants crawling under my skin. Daddy puts the cold cream on and wraps me in soft clothes, but—" "Lily." Ethan's voice cut through the afternoon air like a blade. He strode across the parking lot, his expression a mixture of anger and something else. "Panic? Let go of my daughter, Claire." "Ethan, look at her. Please, just look at what's happening." "I said let go." He gently but firmly took Lily's hand, pulling her away. But in that moment, as Lily turned, a breeze caught her collar and pulled it down slightly. Claire saw it clearly. The The condition had spread to Lily's face. Faint red patches were visible on her jawline and behind her ear, areas that even the turtleneck couldn't fully hide. And there was something else. The skin tone on her cheek looked slightly off, unnaturally even. "Are you putting makeup on her?" Claire asked, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. Ethan's face flushed. "I'm protecting her privacy. Come on, Lily." As they walked away, Lily looked back at her mother with eyes that held too much understanding for a 5-year-old. Eyes that said, "Help me." Claire stood frozen in the parking lot until a gentle voice beside her said, "Mrs. Hartwell?" She turned to find a young woman with kind eyes and a teacher's badge. "I'm Miss Talbot, Lily's teacher. I'm glad you're here. You know what's happening to her?" Miss Talbot glanced around nervously. "Can we talk somewhere private?" They moved to Miss Talbot's classroom. The teacher spoke quietly, her hands twisting together. "Lily has missed 17 days of school this semester. When she does come, she wears long sleeves and pants even during PE. I've seen her scratching until she cries. Last week she came to my desk and whispered, 'Miss Talbot, it burns like fire.' I reported it to the principal, but Mr. Hartwell always has explanations. Seasonal allergies, sensitive skin, a minor rash." "It's not minor," Claire said. "It's serious, and it's getting worse." "I know. I can see it spreading. Mrs. Hartwell, I could lose my job for saying this, but that little girl needs help." That evening, as Claire sat in her empty house documenting everything from the day, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. She opened it and gasped. It was a photo of Lily in the school bathroom, taken from a distance. The lighting was clear enough to see what looked like foundation makeup on the child's neck and face, and beneath it, the unmistakable signs of worsening skin inflammation. The message read, "He's using makeup on her now to hide it from everyone. She asked me today if she was turning into a monster. Please help her. A friend." Claire immediately knew who it was. Miss Talbot. She looked at the calendar on her wall where she'd been marking the days. 5 down, 25 to go. But would 25 days be enough? The courthouse was intimidating. Tall ceilings, marble floors, and the weight of justice hanging in the air. Claire sat beside Iris Callahan at a polished table, her palms sweating as Judge Patricia Harrison reviewed the preliminary filings. Across the aisle, Ethan sat with his attorney, Ronald Pike, a sharp-dressed man with silver hair and a reputation for winning. Ethan looked every bit the responsible father. Pressed suit, calm demeanor, leather portfolio organized with color-coded tabs. "Your Honor," Pike began smoothly, "my client is a dedicated father and a reliable employee at Sterling Tech Company for 12 years. He maintains a structured, stable home environment for his daughter. This emergency hearing is nothing more than a desperate attempt by Mrs. Hartwell to regain custody after she was deemed unfit due to her mental health challenges." Claire felt the words like physical blows, but Iris squeezed her hand under the table. Judge Harrison turned to Iris. "Counselor, what evidence do you present?" Iris stood, projecting confidence. "Your Honor, we have documentation that the child, Lily Hartwell, has not received proper medical care for 9 months despite exhibiting symptoms of a serious dermatological condition. We have testimony from Dr. Helen Strauss, the child's former pediatrician, and Miss Sarah Talbot, her teacher, both expressing grave concern. Dr. Strauss was called first. She testified clearly. In my medical opinion, this child requires immediate specialist evaluation. The progression I observed suggests months of untreated inflammatory skin disease, possibly autoimmune in nature." Pike countered smoothly. "Dr. Strauss, isn't it true you haven't examined Lily in over a year? How can you make such diagnoses from a single emergency room visit?" "Because, Mr. Pike, I've been practicing pediatric medicine for 23 years. I know what neglect looks like." The courtroom tensed. When it was Claire's turn to testify, her voice shook but held steady. "Your Honor, I know I made mistakes during the divorce. I struggled with depression, and I'm not proud of that difficult time. But I've been in therapy, I'm working again, and I'm stable now. My daughter came to my door in pain, desperate for help. That should tell you everything." Pike stood. "Mrs. Hartwell, Where did you obtain these photographs of my client's trash and this picture of his deceased mother? Claire's stomach dropped. From the garbage bins on the curb. It's not illegal. So you admit to going through my client's personal belongings without permission? I was trying to understand why my daughter was suffering. Your Honor, Pike said with practiced outrage, this demonstrates exactly the kind of boundary-crossing behavior that led to Mrs. Hartwell losing custody in the first place. But Iris was ready. Your Honor, I'd like to submit this photograph and obituary as evidence. Margaret Hartwell, Mr. Hartwell's mother, died when he was 8 years old from complications of an autoimmune skin condition. We believe Mr. Hartwell is suffering from unresolved childhood trauma that's preventing him from seeking appropriate medical care for his daughter. Ethan's composure cracked for the first time. His jaw tightened, his hands gripping the table edge. Judge Harrison studied the documents silently, then looked at both parents. Here's what's going to happen. I'm ordering a mandatory medical evaluation of Lily Hartwell by an independent physician within 5 days. I'm also ordering psychological evaluations for both parents. Mr. Hartwell, you will comply with the medical examination or face contempt charges. Your Honor, Ethan said, his voice strained but controlled. I'll comply. But I want it on record that I've been caring for my daughter to the best of my ability, trying to protect her from the same medical system that failed my mother. Noted, Mr. Hartwell. But your best ability may not be what your daughter needs. We reconvene after the evaluations. Court adjourned. As people gathered their belongings, Ethan walked past Claire. For a moment, their eyes met. His were filled with something she hadn't expected. Not anger, but fear. Raw, terrible fear. He leaned close and whispered, "You don't understand what you're doing. They took my mother from me piece by piece with their treatments and tests. I won't let that happen to Lily. I can't." Claire watched him leave and suddenly understood with crystal clarity. This wasn't about stubbornness or control. Ethan wasn't trying to hurt their daughter. He was trying to save her from the only thing that terrified him more than her illness. The very thing that could actually help her. Outside the courthouse, Iris touched Claire's arm. "You okay?" "He's not a villain," Claire said quietly. "He's a terrified little boy who watched his mother die and never recovered." "Maybe so. But right now that terrified little boy is making choices that are harming your daughter." Claire looked at her phone. Day 8, 22 days left. And somewhere between here and there she needed to save Lily not just from Ethan's fear, but from the trauma he couldn't escape. Doctor. Marcus Webb's office was warm and inviting. Nothing like the sterile therapy rooms Claire remembered from her darkest days. Plants lined the windowsill, and soft afternoon light filtered through sheer curtains. "Claire," Dr. Webb said, reviewing his notes, "you've made remarkable progress. Your depression screening scores have improved significantly. You're maintaining employment, attending therapy consistently, and building a support network. I'll be recommending to the court that your mental health is stable." Claire exhaled a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "Thank you, Dr. Webb. I've worked so hard to get better. It shows. Now tell me, how are you managing the stress of this custody situation?" "Honestly, some days I want to fall apart, but I can't. Lily needs me to be strong." That evening, Claire sat at her laptop, diving deep into medical research. She joined online support groups for mothers dealing with childhood autoimmune conditions. The stories were heartbreaking but educational. One message caught her attention. "My daughter's psoriasis flares became severe after our divorce. Her doctor explained that emotional stress can trigger autoimmune responses in children. Once we stabilized her environment and gave her emotional security, the treatment worked better." Claire's heart sank. Lily was living in a house where her father was consumed by fear, where she had to hide her condition, where every day was filled with tension. The emotional stress itself could be making everything worse. A private message popped up. "I saw your post. I'm going through something similar. Would you like to talk?" The username was Vivian 2015. Claire's hands froze over the keyboard. "Vivian? Could it be?" She typed, "Vivian, is this you?" The response came quickly. Claire? Oh my God. It's me, your sister. 20 minutes later, they were on a video call, both crying. Vivian looked older. She was 42 now, with gentle lines around her eyes. But it was unmistakably her. I can't believe I found you like this, Vivian said, wiping tears. Claire, I'm so sorry I pulled away during your divorce. I didn't know how to help, and I was dealing with my own family issues. But when I saw your post about a 5-year-old daughter in a custody battle, I had to reach out. Viv, I've missed you so much. They talked for hours. Vivian had gone through her own custody challenges 3 years earlier and come out the other side. She understood the system, the pain, the feeling of helplessness. You're doing the right thing, Vivian assured her. Fighting for Lily, don't give up. The next morning, Nora came over with a notebook. All right, dear. Let's organize everything you know. Documentation is power in court. Together, they created a timeline. When Lily's symptoms likely started based on school records, when medical visits stopped, when behavioral changes occurred. The pattern was clear and damning. Claire's phone rang, a number she didn't recognize. She answered hesitantly. Mommy? The whisper was barely audible. Lily? Baby, where are you? In the bathroom. Daddy's getting me ready for the doctor tomorrow. Mommy, he put so much makeup on my face that I can barely move it, and he's crying. Claire's heart hammered. He's crying? He keeps saying, I'm sorry, Mama, over and over, but Grandma's not here, Mommy. He's talking to someone who's not here. Lily's voice cracked. Mommy, I'm scared. He looks so sad and my skin hurts so bad under all this stuff. Lily, listen to me carefully. Tomorrow, when you go to the doctor, tell them everything that hurts. Be honest, okay? Can you do that for Mommy? I'll try. I have to go. I hear him coming back. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby. So much. The line went dead. Claire immediately called Iris and explained what happened. He's breaking down, Claire said. Tomorrow's evaluation might be the breaking point for him. Then we need to be prepared for anything, Iris replied. Get some rest, Claire. Tomorrow changes everything. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, thinking about Ethan at 8 years old, watching his mother deteriorate. Thinking about that terrified little boy who'd grown into a man who couldn't see that his fear was creating the very nightmare he was trying to prevent. She thought about Lily, trapped between her father's trauma and her body's desperate need for help. 22 days remained. But tomorrow, day 12, would be the day the truth could no longer be hidden behind makeup and long sleeves and desperate denial. Tomorrow, someone would finally be forced to see Lily for exactly what she was, a little girl who was suffering and who had been suffering alone for far too long. The medical evaluation center was quiet and professional, designed to put children at ease with colorful murals and soft lighting. But nothing could ease the tension in the waiting room where Claire sat, her hands clasped tightly together. Iris had warned her. She couldn't be present during the examination itself. Only Ethan, as the custodial parent and the court-appointed physician, Dr. Raymond Cole, would be in the room with Lily. Through the small window in the door, Claire could see Lily sitting on the examination table, still wearing her long-sleeved dress and tights. Ethan stood beside her, his posture rigid, his hand protectively on her shoulder. Dr. Cole entered, a tall man in his 60s with silver hair and kind but observant eyes. He'd been a pediatric dermatologist for over 30 years. If anyone could identify what was happening to Lily, it was him. Claire couldn't hear what was being said, but she could read the body language. Dr. Cole spoke gently to Lily, who nodded. He then turned to Ethan, clearly asking permission to proceed with the examination. Ethan's entire body went rigid. Even from outside, Claire could see the panic in his movements. He shook his head, his mouth forming words of protest. Dr. Cole remained calm, gesturing to papers, presumably the court order. Ethan had no choice. He had to comply. What happened next would be burned into Claire's memory forever. As Dr. Cole helped Lily remove the long sleeves, Ethan's face transformed. His controlled composure shattered like glass. He turned away, his hand covering his mouth, his shoulders beginning to shake. Dr. Cole's expression shifted from clinical assessment to genuine alarm. He called for his nurse, who hurried into the room with supplies. Through the window, Claire could see them carefully examining Lily's skin, documenting with photographs, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. The door opened suddenly, and the nurse stepped out. "Mrs. Hartwell, Dr. Cole requests your presence." Claire's legs felt weak as she entered the room. What she saw made her breath catch. Without the makeup, without the concealing clothes, the full extent of Lily's condition was visible. The red, scaling patches covered more than half of her small body. Some areas showed signs of infection where she'd scratched in her sleep. The skin on her arms looked inflamed and painful. But it was Ethan who shocked her most. He was collapsed in a chair in the corner, his face in his hands, his entire body trembling with silent sobs. "Mommy," Lily said quietly, tears streaming down her face. "Does this mean I'm really sick?" Dr. Cole knelt beside her. "Lily, you have a condition. Yes, but it's something we can help with. It's called psoriasis, and while it's not fun, it's treatable. The important thing is that we caught it, and now we can make you feel better." He turned to Claire and Ethan, his voice serious but compassionate. "This is severe juvenile psoriasis, significantly advanced. The good news is that with proper treatment, medication, topical therapies, and stress management, we can manage this effectively. The bad news is that going untreated for this long has caused unnecessary suffering and put her at risk for complications." "How long?" Claire asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Based on the progression pattern, I'd estimate she's been symptomatic for at least 10 months, possibly a year." A sound came from the corner, a broken, desperate sound. Ethan looked up, his eyes red and devastated. I thought if I didn't take her to doctors, if I treated it naturally at home, she wouldn't end up like—" His voice broke completely. "Like my mother." Dr. Cole's expression softened with understanding. "Mr. Hartwell, when did your mother pass away?" 1987. She had something wrong with her skin. The doctors kept trying different treatments, stronger medications, painful procedures. Nothing helped. She just kept getting worse until— He couldn't finish. "Medical science has advanced tremendously in nearly 40 years, Dr. Cole said gently. "What your mother likely suffered from, and what your daughter has, are treatable now in ways that weren't possible then. By avoiding doctors, you weren't protecting Lily. You were denying her the very help she needed." Ethan stood on shaking legs and moved to Lily, kneeling before her. "I'm so sorry, Princess. Daddy was so scared of losing you that I couldn't see I was hurting you instead. I was trying to keep you safe, but I made everything worse." Lily wrapped her small arms around his neck. "It's okay, Daddy. You were just scared. But Mommy says it's brave to ask for help when you're scared." Dr. Cole cleared his throat. "I'm required by law to report this to the court. Lily needs to be hospitalized immediately for initial treatment and to address the infections. After that, she'll need ongoing care, medications, regular monitoring, and most importantly, a stable, stress-free environment." Claire found her voice. "Will she be okay? Long-term?" "With proper treatment, absolutely. She'll have this condition for life, but many people with psoriasis live full, normal lives. The key is consistent medical care and emotional support." Ethan looked at Claire for the first time, his eyes filled with shame and something else. Surrender. "I can't do this alone. I thought I could, but I can't. She needs you. She's always needed you." Claire crossed the room and placed a hand on his shoulder. "She needs both of us, Ethan, but healthy versions of us." As the ambulance was called to transport Lily to the hospital, Claire realized something profound. The villain in this story wasn't Ethan. It was fear itself, fear so powerful it had blinded a father to his daughter's suffering. And now, finally, they could all start healing. Riverside General Hospital's pediatric wing was designed to be cheerful. Bright colors, cartoon characters on the walls, murals of underwater scenes. But Claire barely noticed as she sat in the chair beside Lily's bed, holding her daughter's small hand, while IV fluids dripped steadily. The initial treatment had begun. Medications to reduce inflammation, antibiotics for the infections, moisturizers to soothe the damaged skin. Lily was finally resting peacefully, her breathing steady. The constant scratching finally stopped by medical intervention. Dr. Cole had been clear. The first 72 hours are critical. We need to stabilize her condition, manage the infections, and begin the treatment protocol. After that, she'll need ongoing care, probably for life. But Claire, she's going to be okay. Claire hadn't left Lily's side for 15 hours. She dozed in the chair, eaten terrible cafeteria food, and watched every rise and fall of her daughter's chest like it was the most precious thing in the world. It was. Around midnight, she heard soft footsteps in the hallway. The door opened slowly and Ethan stood there, looking like a man who'd aged 10 years in 2 days. His eyes were red-rimmed, his usually perfect hair disheveled, his shirt wrinkled. Can I come in?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Claire nodded, too exhausted for anger. She's sleeping. Finally, sleeping without pain. Ethan moved to the opposite side of the bed, looking down at their daughter. A tear rolled down his cheek. "I did this to her." "No, Ethan. Fear did this. Trauma did this." He sank into the chair, burying his face in his hands. For several minutes, they sat in silence, the only sound the steady beep of monitors and the whisper of the hospital's ventilation system. Then Ethan began to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was 8 years old when my mother started showing symptoms. At first, it was just dry patches on her elbows, then her arms, then everywhere." His voice cracked. "She went to so many doctors, Claire. Dermatologists, specialists, even out-of-state consultations. They tried everything: creams, pills, light therapy, injections. Each treatment seemed to make things worse." Claire listened, not interrupting. "I remember coming home from school and finding her crying in the bathroom, looking at herself in the mirror. She'd say, 'Ethan, honey, don't look at Mommy right now. Mommy doesn't feel pretty today.' But I didn't care what she looked like. I just wanted her to stop hurting." "How long did she suffer?" Claire asked gently. 2 years, 2 years of watching her disappear piece by piece. Not just her skin, her spirit. She stopped going out, stopped seeing friends. The treatments made her so sick sometimes she couldn't get out of bed." Ethan's hands were shaking. "The day she died, my father told me something I've never forgotten. He said, 'Son, the treatments killed your mother, not the disease.' The doctors didn't know what they were doing, and they experimented on her until there was nothing left." "Oh, Ethan, I know now that he was wrong. He was angry and grieving and looking for someone to blame, but I was 8. I believed him, and I carried that belief for 34 years. He looked up at Claire, his eyes desperate. "When I saw those first patches on Lily's skin last year, something inside me just broke. All I could see was my mother. All I could hear was my father's voice saying the doctors would take her from me." Claire moved around the bed and knelt beside his chair. "Ethan, you were suffering from something just as real as Lily's psoriasis. You had untreated trauma, unprocessed grief. That 8-year-old boy inside you was still terrified, still trying to save his mother by saving his daughter. But I made everything worse. I was so focused on protecting her from what killed my mother that I couldn't see I was failing her in a completely different way. You were sick too," Claire said softly. "Trauma that goes untreated for decades is a disease as real as the one affecting Lily's skin. You need help too, Ethan. Real help." He nodded slowly. "Dr. Cole gave me information about therapists who specialize in childhood trauma and PTSD. I'm going to call them tomorrow." "Good. That's really good." Ethan wiped his eyes and looked at Lily. Do you think she'll forgive me?" "She already has. She told you in the examination room. She understands you were scared." Can I sit with her for a while?" "Of course." They moved chairs to the same side of the bed, sitting together in the dim hospital light. Ethan gently touched Lily's hand, careful not to wake her. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," he whispered. "Daddy was scared of losing you like he lost Grandma. But now I understand. The best way to keep you safe isn't to hide from help. It's to ask for it. You're going to get better, Princess. We all are." Claire felt tears streaming down her own face. This moment, sitting vigil over their sleeping daughter, both of them broken but finally honest. Felt like the first real peace she'd experienced in 2 years. "Thank you," Ethan said quietly, looking at Claire. "For fighting when I couldn't see clearly. For loving her enough to fight me. She's worth fighting for." "Yes," he agreed. "She is." Outside the hospital window, dawn was beginning to break. Day 15 was ending. 15 days left. But for the first time, Claire believed they might actually make it through this. All 3 of them together. Ms. Gretchen Vale arrived at the hospital with her clipboard and a serious expression that made Claire's stomach drop. "Mrs. Hartwell, Mr. Hartwell, I need to speak with both of you, privately." They followed her to a small consultation room. Ms. Vale didn't waste time. "Based on the medical evaluation, the court is moving forward with temporary custody modifications. However, there's been a complication." Claire's heart sank. "What kind of complication?" "Mr. Hartwell's attorney has filed a counter motion claiming that you orchestrated this entire situation to manipulate the custody arrangement. He's arguing that you influenced Lily to come to your house, that you went through Mr. Hartwell's private property illegally, and that you're using the medical crisis for personal gain." "That's not true," Claire's voice rose. "Lily came to me because she was suffering." "I understand that, Mrs. Hartwell. But the legal reality is complex. Mr. Pike is also arguing that Mr. Hartwell's cooperation in recent days shows he's capable of making appropriate decisions now that he understands the situation." Claire turned to Ethan, expecting him to speak up, to defend her, to tell the truth. But he sat silent, staring at his hands. "Ethan," her voice was small, "you know that's not what happened. Tell them." "Mr. Hartwell?" Ms. Vale prompted. Ethan's jaw worked. Pike says if I contest Claire's methods, I might retain partial custody faster. But if I admit everything, I could lose Lily completely for months." Claire felt like she'd been slapped. "So you're going to let him paint me as the villain? After everything?" "I don't know what to do," Ethan said miserably. Pike doesn't care about Lily. He cares about winning." Claire stood, her chair scraping loudly. "I fought for our daughter when you couldn't see past your own fear, and now you're going to side with him." "Claire, I'm not siding with anyone. I'm confused and I don't know what's right anymore." Ms. Vale cleared her throat. "The judge has ordered a full best interest of the child evaluation. This will take approximately 10 more days. Until then, Lily remains in hospital care with supervised visitation for both parents. 10 more days of limbo. 10 more days of uncertainty." Claire walked out without another word to Ethan. She made it to the hospital parking lot before the tears came. Angry, frustrated, exhausted tears. She'd saved their daughter. She'd helped Ethan see the truth. And now, because of legal maneuvering and his weakness under pressure, she might still lose. Claire found herself in the empty hospital chapel, surrounded by silence and soft lighting. She sat in the back pew, clutching Lily's favorite stuffed rabbit that she'd brought from home. "I don't know how much more I can take," she whispered into the emptiness. Her phone buzzed. It was Nora. "Where are you, dear?" "I'm at the hospital." 20 minutes later, Nora found her in the chapel and sat beside her without a word, simply taking her hand. "He's choosing his lawyer over the truth," Claire said, her voice hollow. "After everything, he still can't do the right thing." "Fear makes people weak," Nora said gently. "But you know what's stronger than fear?" "What?" "A mother's love. You've come this far, Claire. You don't give up now. Not when Lily needs you most." Claire looked at the stuffed rabbit in her hands, worn from years of love, one ear slightly torn, but still Lily's most treasured possession. "You're right," she said, wiping her eyes. "Ethan can make whatever choice he needs to, but I made my choice the night Lily knocked on my door, and I'm not backing down." Day 18, 12 days left, and Claire Hartwell was done being anyone's victim. Claire sat beside Lily's hospital bed, watching her daughter color in a book that one of the nurses had brought. The treatment was working. Already, after just 6 days, Lily's skin was showing improvement. The angry red patches were fading, the constant itching had stopped, And most importantly, Lily was smiling again. "Mommy, look!" Lily held up her drawing, a rainbow with 3 stick figures underneath. "This is you, me, and Daddy. See? We're all under the same rainbow, even though we're not in the same house." Claire's heart squeezed. "That's beautiful, sweetheart. Dr. Cole says my skin is getting better because of the medicine and because I'm not so worried anymore." Lily looked at her arms thoughtfully. "I was scared I was turning into something bad. But Dr. Cole says psoriasis doesn't make me bad. It just makes me That's exactly right, baby." Lily set down her crayons and looked at Claire with those 2 wise eyes. "Mommy, why did you and Daddy stop living together?" Claire took a breath, choosing her words carefully. "Sometimes grown-ups have problems they can't fix while they're together. But that doesn't mean we don't both love you very much. I know you love me. You came and got me when I was scared." Lily reached for Claire's hand. "Daddy loves me too. He was just scared like I was. Scared I was going to disappear like Grandma Margaret. How do you know about Grandma Margaret? Daddy told me last night during his visit. He said sorry for being scared for so long, and that he's going to talk to a special doctor about his fears, just like I talked to Dr. Cole about my skin." Lily squeezed Claire's hand. "You know what I told him?" "What, sweetheart?" "I told him that being scared is okay. Miss Talbot at school says everyone gets scared sometimes. But we can't let scared make us forget to be brave." Claire felt tears welling up. Here was her 5-year-old daughter, who'd suffered for months, who'd been caught in the middle of adult fears and legal battles, teaching everyone around her about courage. At that moment, Ms. Vale entered with paperwork. "Mrs. Hartwell, I need to speak with you." They stepped into the hallway. Ms. Vale's expression was softer than usual. "I've been doing this job for 16 years, and I've learned to recognize when a parent is genuine. I watched the recordings from Lily's evaluation. Do you know what she said when Dr. Cole asked her where she wanted to live?" Claire shook her head, afraid to hope. She said, "I want to be with my mommy because she fights for me even when it's hard, but I want to see my daddy too because he's learning to not be scared anymore. Can I have both?" Claire's hand flew to her mouth. "Your ex-husband called me this morning," Ms. Vale continued. "He fired Ronald Pike. He's withdrawing his counter-motion and supporting your petition for primary custody with supervised visitation for himself. He said, and I quote, 'My daughter taught me that being brave means admitting when you're wrong.'" "He did?" "He did. Judge Harrison will make it official tomorrow, but Claire, you won you. Not by fighting Ethan, but by fighting for Lily. That's the kind of mother the system needs to see more of." That evening, Ethan visited during his scheduled time. He and Claire stood together by Lily's bed as their daughter slept peacefully, her coloring book still open beside her. "Thank you," Claire said quietly, "for doing the right thing. I should have done it days ago. Pike was in my head, making me doubt everything. But then Lily told me this morning that I needed to be brave." He smiled sadly. "A 5-year-old had to teach me courage. She's remarkable. She gets that from you." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Ethan spoke again. "I started therapy yesterday. Real therapy for the PTSD. It's going to be a long road." "One day at a time," Claire said. "That's all any of us can do." Day 21. 9 days remained on the original deadline. But it didn't matter anymore. The real countdown had ended. Lily was safe, getting better and surrounded by parents who finally understood what it meant to put her first. The spark of hope that Claire had been desperately holding on to had finally ignited into something real. The courthouse felt different this time. As Claire walked through the doors with Iris by her side, she wasn't afraid. She was ready. Nora and Vivian sat in the gallery, offering silent support. Miss Talbot had submitted a written statement. Dr. Strauss and Dr. Cole had prepared detailed medical testimony. Even Ms. Vale had indicated she would recommend Claire for primary custody. But the most surprising ally was waiting at the plaintiff's table. Ethan. He stood when Claire entered, looking nervous but determined. "I spoke with Iris yesterday," he said quietly. "I'm testifying on your behalf. I'm going to tell the truth. All of it." Judge Harrison entered, and the hearing began. Iris presented the case methodically. Medical records showing Lily's neglected condition, testimony from Dr. Cole about the severity and required treatment, school records documenting absences and concerns. Then Ethan took the stand. "Your Honor," he began, his voice steady despite the emotion beneath it, "I failed my daughter. Not because I didn't love her, but because I loved her so much that my fear blinded me to what she actually needed." He explained his mother's death, his father's words, the decades of unprocessed trauma. "When I saw those first patches on Lily's skin, I didn't see my daughter. I saw my mother. And I convinced myself that avoiding doctors was protecting her when really, I was condemning her to suffer alone." Judge Harrison listened intently. "Mr. Hartwell, what changed?" "My daughter did. She showed up at her mother's house because she trusted Claire to help her when I couldn't. That 5-year-old child had more courage than I did. Claire fought for our daughter when I was too traumatized to see clearly. She deserves primary custody. Lily needs stability, consistent medical care, and a parent who puts her needs first. Right now, that parent is Claire." The courtroom was silent. Dr. Cole testified next about Lily's prognosis. "With proper treatment and a stable environment, she'll thrive. The most important factors now are medication compliance and reducing stress. The child needs consistency." Finally, Judge Harrison spoke. "I've reviewed all the evidence and testimony. Mrs. Hartwell, you've demonstrated remarkable recovery and commitment. Mr. Hartwell, your honesty today shows growth. Here's my ruling. Primary physical custody goes to Claire Hartwell, effective immediately upon Lily's hospital discharge. Mr. Hartwell will have supervised visitation twice weekly, increasing to unsupervised after completing 6 months of therapy. Joint legal custody with Claire having final say on medical decisions. We'll review in 6 months." Claire's legs nearly gave out. Iris steadied her. "Thank you, Your Honor," Claire managed. Outside the courthouse, Ethan approached her. "Thank you for not giving up on Lily or on me." "We're her parents," Claire said, "both of us. We just need to figure out how to do this right." "Agreed." He extended his hand. Claire took it. 5 days left on the original 30-day deadline, but they'd already won what mattered most. Tomorrow, Lily would come home. Claire stood in Lily's bedroom, smoothing the freshly washed sheets one more time. The room was ready, clean, organized, filled with soft light from the window. Lily's stuffed animals sat on the bed, her books arranged on the shelf, her favorite nightlight plugged in beside the dresser. After a year of emptiness, this room would finally have life again. Nora knocked on the doorframe. "The hospital just called. They're ready for discharge." An hour later, Claire signed the final paperwork while Dr. Cole reviewed Lily's care instructions. Topical medications twice daily, oral medication with breakfast, and follow-up appointments every 2 weeks. She'll need this routine for the foreseeable future, possibly for life. But Claire, she's going to be fine. Lily bounced excitedly in the wheelchair, hospital policy for discharge, wearing comfortable clothes that didn't hide her skin anymore. The visible patches were already fading, small reminders of what she'd overcome. "Can we go home now, Mommy?" "Yes, baby, we can go home." As they walked to the car, Claire noticed Ethan standing by the parking lot entrance. He looked different, lighter somehow, despite the obvious weight of his decisions. "I wanted to say goodbye," he said, kneeling to Lily's level. "You're going to have a wonderful time at Mommy's house. Will you visit me, Daddy?" "Twice a week, Princess, I promise. And I'll be talking to Dr. Webb so I can be the daddy you deserve." Lily hugged him tightly. "I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetheart, so much." After Lily was buckled in the car, Ethan approached Claire. "I know Iris mentioned you could pursue charges for medical negligence. I wouldn't fight it." "I deserve whatever consequences." "I'm not pressing charges," Claire interrupted. Ethan looked stunned. "But I put her through months of suffering. You have every right." "Lily needs her father, Ethan. Not a father consumed by legal battles and guilt. She needs you healthy and present. That's worth more than punishment." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve this mercy." "Maybe not. but Lily deserves a chance to have both her parents in her life doing better. That's what I'm choosing. It was a sacrifice, letting go of justice for the sake of healing. But as Claire drove home with Lily singing softly in the back seat, she knew it was the right choice. That evening, they had their first dinner together in over a year. Lily talked excitedly about returning to school, about showing her classmates that her skin was getting better, about the rainbow drawing she'd made. When bedtime came, Claire tucked Lily in, applying the nighttime medication gently. "Mommy?" "Yes, sweetheart?" "Thank you for saving me." Claire kissed her forehead. "You saved yourself, baby. You were brave enough to ask for help. I'm just glad I could answer." Day 28. 2 days remained, but the countdown didn't matter anymore. They were already home. Life had found a rhythm. Every morning, Claire helped Lily apply her medications before school. Every evening, they did the routine together: medication, moisturizer, bedtime story. The patches on Lily's skin were fading steadily, responding to consistent care and love. Vivian had become a regular presence, helping with carpools and cooking meals. Nora checked in daily, always with encouraging words and practical wisdom. Even Miss Talbot sent notes celebrating Lily's return to school. Ethan's supervised visits happened every Tuesday and Thursday evening. At first, they'd been awkward, supervised by a court-appointed monitor, everyone careful and formal. But slowly, something shifted. Tonight was different. The monitor sat in the corner reading while Ethan and Lily played cards at the kitchen table. Claire watched from the doorway, seeing her ex-husband truly engage with their daughter for the first time in years. "Daddy, you're getting better at Go Fish," Lily giggled. "I'm learning from the master," Ethan smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. After Lily won 3 games straight, Ethan helped her get ready for bed while the monitor observed. When Lily was tucked in, she looked at both her parents standing awkwardly in the doorway. "Can you both read to me tonight?" she asked hopefully. Claire and Ethan exchanged glances, then nodded. They sat on opposite sides of the bed, taking turns reading pages from Lily's favorite book about a brave little mouse. When Lily drifted to sleep, they walked outside together. The October evening was cool and clear. "Thank you for letting me be part of this," Ethan said quietly. "I know I don't deserve it." "You're doing the work, Ethan. Dr. Webb says you're making real progress." "I am. He diagnosed me with complex PTSD from childhood trauma. Having a name for it, understanding it, it helps. I'm not that terrified 8-year-old anymore. I can choose different actions now." Ms. Vale approached from her car. "Mr. Hartwell, that's time. Mrs. Hartwell, may I speak with you both briefly?" "In 6 months, we'll reassess the arrangement," Ms. Vale explained. "If the current progress continues, Lily's health stable, both parents engaged appropriately, Mr. Hartwell completing therapy, we'll move to unsupervised visitation and possibly shared custody." "Thank you," Ethan said, "for believing people can change." As he drove away, Claire stood on her porch, looking at the home that finally felt complete again. Inside, Lily slept peacefully, her medications on schedule, her body healing, her heart secure. Tomorrow was a new beginning. Not perfect, but real. And that was enough. Meadowbrook Elementary's family night was packed with parents, children, and decorations. Claire arrived early, nervous energy thrumming through her. Tonight, Lily's class was presenting projects about overcoming challenges. Ethan appeared in the doorway, looking healthier than Claire had seen him in years. His therapy was working. His shoulders were relaxed, his eyes clear. "May I sit with you?" he asked. "Of course." They sat together as the presentations began. Other children talked about learning to ride bikes, making new friends, or overcoming fears of the dark. Then it was Lily's turn. She walked to the front confidently, holding a poster board covered in photos and drawings. Her arms were visible in her short-sleeved shirt, the patches nearly invisible now, just faint shadows of what had been. "My challenge was being sick and scared," Lily began, her voice clear. "I have something called psoriasis. It made my skin hurt really bad, but I learned that asking for help is brave, not weak." She pointed to photos on her board, Pictures from the hospital, her medications, drawings of her family. My mommy fought for me when I was too little to fight for myself. My daddy learned that being scared is okay, but hiding from problems makes them worse. And I learned that being different doesn't make me less. Claire felt tears streaming down her face. Beside her, Ethan was crying too. Now I take medicine every day, and I see doctors who help me, Lily continued. My skin still has some spots, but they don't hurt anymore. And you know what? That's okay, because these spots are part of my story, and my story is about getting brave. The classroom erupted in applause. Parents wiped their eyes. Miss Talbot beamed with pride. After the presentation, families mingled over refreshments. Miss Vale appeared, clipboard in hand, but smiling warmly. Mr. and Mrs. Hartwell, former Mrs. Hartwell, I have news. Based on the past 3 months of successful co-parenting, consistent medical care, and Mr. Hartwell's completed therapy evaluation, Judge Harrison has approved unsupervised visitation starting next week. We'll revisit shared custody in 3 months. Thank you, Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for giving me the chance to become the father she deserves. As families began leaving, Ethan knelt beside Lily. Princess, I'm so proud of you. You taught me more about courage than any therapy session could. Lily hugged him. We all got brave together, Daddy. You, me, and Mommy. That night, after Ethan left and Lily was tucked in bed, Claire stood at her daughter's doorway watching her sleep. Dr. Webb had called earlier that evening with Ethan's final diagnosis, complex PTSD from childhood trauma, now being successfully treated. The villain in their story had never been a person. It had been fear, trauma, and pain that went unaddressed for too long. But tonight proved something powerful. With courage, truth, and love, even the deepest wounds could begin to heal. The confrontation wasn't with each other. It was with the darkness they'd all been carrying, and together they'd finally found the light. Spring sunshine filled Claire's kitchen as she prepared Lily's lunch for school. The daily routine had become second nature. Medications measured and administered, healthy snacks packed, backpack ready by the door. Lily sat at the table, her skin clear except for a few faint patches that barely showed anymore. She was coloring a Mother's Day card, her tongue sticking out in concentration. Mommy, can Daddy come to the Mother's Day breakfast at school? Claire smiled. Of course, sweetheart. He's your daddy. He should be there. The doorbell rang. Ethan stood on the porch, right on time for his morning pickup. 6 months of therapy had transformed him. He stood taller, smiled easier, and most importantly, he was present with Lily in ways he'd never been before. Ready for our weekend, Princess? He asked as Lily ran to hug him. We're going to the park and making pancakes. As Ethan buckled Lily into his car, he turned to Claire. I got the final evaluation from Dr. Webb yesterday. He's recommending full shared custody. No more supervision. Claire felt a mixture of emotions, pride in how far they'd come, a touch of fear about letting go, but mostly relief. You've earned it, Ethan. You did the work. We both did, he said quietly. Thank you for not giving up on either of us. After they drove away, Claire stood in her doorway, watching the car disappear down the street. Nora appeared from next door, carrying fresh muffins. How are you feeling? Nora asked, understanding immediately. Proud, scared, grateful, all of it at once. That's called healing, dear. It's messy and complicated, but it's real. That evening, Claire video called with Vivian while preparing dinner. You look happy, Vivian observed. Really happy. I am, Claire realized. For the first time in years, I actually am. Later, as Claire folded Lily's laundry, the little dresses and shirts that no longer needed to hide anything, she thought about how far they'd all traveled from that desperate night 6 months ago. Lily was thriving, healthy, confident, and learning to manage her condition with maturity beyond her years. Ethan was healing, confronting decades of trauma and becoming the father he'd always wanted to be. And Claire? She discovered a strength she didn't know she possessed. Not the strength to fight, but the strength to forgive, to persist, and to believe in second chances. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. A photo of Lily at the park, arms stretched wide, face tilted toward the sun, completely free and unafraid. The caption read, "She said to tell you she didn't scratch once today. Thank you for never giving up." Claire saved the photo, her heart full. The journey had been painful, terrifying, and uncertain. But standing in her home, a home that Lily would return to tomorrow, a home filled with love and stability, Claire understood something profound. Sometimes the greatest victories don't come from defeating others. They come from saving each other, one brave choice at a time. And that was exactly what they'd done.